Good Monday morning to all of you. I know this week is starting off a little bit tumultuous. We're not quite sure what's going on right now with money in the fashion and apparel industry. So for doing a Money Mondays today, I really struggled to kind of figure out which topic to hit on. And so what I wanted to do today was hit on some of the most basic information that I feel like you need in what's going on right now throughout the world. I really want to just kind of talk about the actual tariff rates that we're going to start to see on all of our new imports that are coming in. There are a lot of people out on social media talking about this in a variety of different ways, depending on who you follow, which brands you like, all of that kind of stuff. You're probably hearing information differently. And so I just want to say that me, as a contractor who is working with several small businesses right now, the businesses who have pieces and parts in place where the majority of their work is being done in the US, we are typically only seeing hits when it comes to importing fabrics. And I've seen a lot of comments kind of online recently about, well, how misleading is it to actually say that your garments are being made in the US if you're actually importing fabrics and trims and other goods to make those garments from another country? First of all, I just want to say that is not how the legal ramifications work. When you are labeling your goods here in the United States, especially when you're selling apparel, you are absolutely required to put certain information on your garments. You have to have certain labels if you are importing goods. Basically, you need to outline like what is the garment made of, what is the fabric and fiber content. You need to have that somewhere in your documentation and labeled on your garment. That's usually why all of us have those really itchy, annoying care labels that are inside our garments. Some brands figure out how we can tear them out really easily, or they'll put like a cut line on it. That is a legal requirement. So if you're buying a piece of apparel and you're like, why do we need this? It's because legally you have to have it. The other thing that is legally required to be on your garment is where the garment is manufactured. And it doesn't have any requirements for us to have to list where all the pieces and parts come from, though. So it's just like well, a lot of people are talking about the auto industry right now. Like, those cars might be made in the US, but there are certain pieces and parts that are maybe made in different countries, and then they're imported in, put into the car, and then the entire car is assembled in the US. And so we say those are American made cars. Similarly with apparel, if we need to import fabric or we need to import zippers, we're paying those duty fees right now on fabrics and zippers, but ultimately we're not then paying additional importing tariffs on the garments themselves if they're being made in the US. And then we actually mark them as made in the United States because that's where the garment is being assembled. So I just wanted to throw that out there. There are a lot of different laws and regulations around all of that. And if you've been in the apparel industry for a long time, you probably know how sticky that can be if you don't get all of your documentation right, if you don't put all of that correct information on your garment in all the right places. You can absolutely get your garments stuck in customs. They can be checking through all of your paperwork, checking through all of your units that you're trying to import, and you can get your stuff stuck there for months. And so instead of receiving your goods when you expect, if you don't do all of that properly and you don't check all the boxes, customs can actually take all of that, inspect it, and you can owe a lot of fees to have to get them through customs and to you eventually. So I just wanted to throw that out there, number one. So for the brands who do need to import fabric and trims, it's typically because there is not a large amount of fabric manufacturing being done here in the United States. Now, there is some. I'm not saying there's not. There is quite there are quite a few places, especially in the Carolinas, that make some knits that we can purchase. If you don't make knits, as far as I know, there is very limited resources. If you know of a mill situation in the United States that is making large scale wovens, or if there's some sort of huge conglomerate that I'm not super aware of, or that the wider fashion industry isn't super aware of, because this is basically the message that all of us are out here saying, is that there's not a lot of fabric for us to actually be able to buy here in the US. And it's because of globalization, right? Like, globalization has been happening for decades. And over time, it has been helpful for the global economy for us to be sharing goods across country borders. And so for the United States, we haven't had a large manufacturing capability in the fashion industry. And so even at the garment producing level, we are not always in the right situation to be able to mass produce certain things. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. So I kind of wanted to throw that out there. I know you're hearing that ad nauseum, right? It's really hard to do apparel here in the US. If you're doing small units, or maybe if you're doing short production runs, it's something that's doable, but you're probably having to import something. If you're able to find all of your goods, including your fabric, here in the US, good for you. Like, you are probably taking advantage of the most ideal situation right now. But it's not easy for all of us. So I wanted to run through, I'm going to share my screen. I wanted to share with you just this little chart that I found about all of the different duty fees that we're seeing across the world right now and how this is going up. So these are in addition to the previously placed customs and duty fees that you would typically pay. So for example, okay, I'm going to use like a running technical t-shirt because that's something I'm really familiar with. Importing a polyester, like a man-made fiber shirt from overseas typically would be about 32% duty rate. So if I were ordering it from China, if I were ordering it from Vietnam, if I were ordering it from Italy, if Portugal, if I were manufacturing in any of those countries and then importing it into the US, that running t-shirt would cost me about 32% duty rate. So I was already paying a third of the garment price to bring it in to the States to be able to sell it. So in this scenario, let's say this running tee from wherever I'm making it from is a $10 FOB. So I've rolled up all the prices with my manufacturer. We have lots of information on FOB pricing in previous iterations of Money Mondays. You can always go back and listen to those if you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm saying FOB. But let's say we're rolling up an FOB price for your garment. It's $10. In order to just import it into the country for a long time now, it is going to cost me an additional $3.20 to import that unit into the United States. So now my total cost for that is $13.20. Then I have to add transportation fees. So whether I'm putting it on a boat, whether I'm putting it on an airplane, however I'm getting it to the country, I then also have to pay those fees. Typically we'll see that be, I don't know, let's just call it $1 right now. So now we're at $14.20. That's my total cost for this garment. So no longer am I just paying $10 for it. I've almost taken 150% of the price. And now that's my actual cost to actually get the garment into the United States. So what's happening now with these tariffs, and what happened several years ago with the additional tariffs that were placed on China and a couple other places, we are finding that these are being placed on top of the old customs and duty fees. So you can see where in some situations, we're getting really, really high tariffs. In Vietnam, for example, 46% tariff. If you were making that running tee in Vietnam and you were importing it from before, now you're looking at a 78% importing fee. So instead of just paying $3.20 to import the garment into the US, we're now paying, what did I say, $7.80 to bring it into the US. I've almost doubled my price to bring it into the US. And so this is why, if you're seeing a lot of different brands kind of complain about this and talk about this, and they're saying that this is going to break the bank, this is going to break their business, this is why. It's because all of a sudden, we're not used to our typical importing fees. We're almost doubling those importing fees, or almost doubling our entire garment price. So this is a list. I have 3 pages here that I was able to pull from the internet of what the actual duty fees are coming from all of these different countries. So you can go ahead and pause this, write these down. If you notice a country that you are actually importing from, you want to definitely take note. And so this is another new list starting here. And then the third list that I have is right here. So go ahead again, if you need to pause this, if you need to go back, if you need to look at it, this is the chart that I was able to find. Now, this chart does not include, there is a sweeping 10% tariff on all other countries. So for example, we're working with a client right now who is making a lot of stuff out of Central America. And the Central America trade agreement has been in place for a really long time. We've been using CAFTA It's a great way to build partnerships with manufacturers in the South Central America regions. I worked with places in El Salvador, Guatemala. Mexico isn't really part of that as part of the NAFTA agreement, but we are right now working with a bunch of different places in Peru. And there was a really beautiful relationship that was being built. And 0% duty fee was helping the business a lot because it is just emerging as a big apparel brand right now. And all of a sudden, there's a 10% duty rate on top of everything coming in from Peru. So all of that has to be added. All of our costing has to be redone. All of the business needs to be relooked at. We had several items that were like on a pallet ready to be actually shipped last week. And the question was like, what's going to happen with these items? Like we can't stop shipping them. They're already at the port. They're on a pallet. They're ready to go. We're not going to be able to just pause that. We can't tell the shipping fee or the shipping company not to ship it or not to send it. It has to go. And so when it starts to get here and cross the border, we're going to have to pay that fee, even though it wasn't planned and it wasn't what we built into our costing models. It wasn't what we built into our revenue planning models. It wasn't what we built into our margin planning models. We have to still import and we're going to have to pay that fee because it's going to arrive later than the tariff went into place. And so I was watching a video yesterday by somebody who had goods coming in from Japan, and Japan is actually being hit right now by a rather large percentage. And so their stuff had shipped like 20 days ago and it was on a boat. It's like on the way. There's nothing they can do. They can't stop the boat. And so as soon as it gets here to in LA port, they're going to have to pay that additional tariff. And again, it wasn't planned for, it wasn't known. And so if you're watching all of this and you're like, this is all really good for the country, this is, we really need to bring manufacturing back to the United States, and this is a great thing. I 100% understand where you're coming from. And I understand what the ultimate goal of all of this is. But what we need to realize, or what I want you to realize, is that bringing manufacturing, especially in the fashion industry, into the United States again has a few issues that we're going to have to battle and overcome if we as an industry decide that that's what we want to do or that's what we should do. And then I'm going to talk about another article that I actually read this morning based on all of this. But so let's talk about first starting a new manufacturing facility. Let's say I wanted to go to the government and say, I'm going to build a new apparel factory. I'm going to build it from scratch. Number one, there's not really any incentive for that right now. And so I've been seeing a lot of different discussion points out there about how it would have actually been a much more successful campaign to offer incentives to brands who were willing to onshore all of their manufacturing, or if there would have been an incentive for more people to go out and actually create new manufacturing facilities. Like if I could say, I'm going to take my profits and I'm going to build a factory. If there had been some sort of government incentive for something like that, that would have really, I think, been a much more positive way to encourage people to start looking into those kinds of things. And so the question is, can we see some of that? And I've been asked that question by quite a few of my clients. Do we think that that's coming? And the question is, we don't know. The uncertainty of everything that's happening and everything that's going on is one of the biggest factors in why people are feeling really confused, really disheartened, really, really afraid of what's happening right now in the economy, because we don't know. It's hard for me to say, like, yeah, I think the government could potentially do something like that, because I don't even know what they're going to do overnight tonight, let alone what they're going to do tomorrow or a month from now, and whether that's going to benefit our businesses or whether it's going to hurt our businesses. It's just so unknown right now. And so there, of course, is the potential. There's the potential for anything to happen, right? So of course, there's the potential that the government is going to say, okay, we are going to incentivize people. We're going to offer stipends. We're going to offer loans. We're going to offer help to the brands who want to onshore, who want to build manufacturing facilities. Okay, so that could be a thing. I think if we start being loud about something like that, that could be something that we can maybe fight for. So let's say I raise my hand and I do that. And let's say I fight for this ability to have an incentive. And so now I've got great incentive to go build this manufacturing facility. It's going to take me anywhere from 3 to 5 years to actually build that manufacturing facility and figure out how to get it fully up and running with all the equipment I need, all of the different people that I'm going to have to hire. And so in 3 to 5 years, we might be able to see that potential. Okay, I've got my new manufacturing facility now. What has happened in that 3 to 5 years is what we kind of need to be discussing right now, where there isn't a ton of other options for us other than to continue doing what we're doing until those new manufacturing facilities are built. Okay, so best case scenario, manufacturing facilities have been built all over the US. We're ready to make apparel now here. The second part that we now need to realize is the hiring process. I really want you to consider the job that we're asking a lot of people to come do by building a manufacturing facility here in the US. We are asking people to come and I'm going to go long today, so forgive me. If you're here on YouTube and you're watching, we're just going to keep going. If you're on LinkedIn, this is probably part two. You're probably having to watch part two of this because we can't upload replays that are longer than 15 minutes. So I apologize, but here we go. We're going to go a little bit long today. This one is really hard because when you go to visit a manufacturing facility in the apparel industry, it's not the type of job that I think a lot of US citizens or US workers really want to be doing. All of us are looking for jobs that get us to a place where the American dream can happen, a place where we can feel like we've contributed something to a company, a place where we can grow as an individual, grow in our knowledge, grow in our career. That's what we're taught from such an early age, right? Like you want to be in a job that makes you feel fulfilled. And I question whether there are enough people that we could hire in the United States who would be open to sitting at a sewing machine all day, every day, sewing the same two seams over and over and over again, because that's essentially what it is. We put all of our apparel on an assembly line, and yes, humans touch it and humans sew it. And yes, you could sit at a sewing machine all day, which might sound fun, but you're not making a garment. You're not doing a project from beginning to end. You're not taking a shirt and sewing the sleeves on and then sewing the collar on and putting the zipper in. It's not like an at-home sewing project, which might be something that you love to do. It's not like that. It's okay, the person behind me just sewed the side seam. So now I'm going to sew the sleeve in, and then I'm going to pass it along, and then the collar is going to go on. And so you're sitting all day, every day, just sewing in a sleeve all day, every day. And you're probably making minimum wage for that. And so I just want to throw out and question whether or not we really think we have the workforce who is willing and open to go do jobs like that. Because not only is it a difficult, physical, intensive job to sit at a sewing machine and do that all day, every day, but it is also a skilled job. You have to be very good at sewing that sleeve in. It almost has to be perfect every single time. And so, again, I'm just questioning whether or not we have the workforce to be able to do that inside the United States. Do we have the people who are willing to go take those jobs? I don't know. Maybe we do. Maybe we have thousands of people in the United States who would love to go sit at a sewing machine every single day and sew two side seams and then pass it off to the next person. Like, I could totally be wrong about that, but I think a lot of us are questioning whether or not that's the workforce that we will actually find. And then I mentioned it already, but the third caveat to this is that then we pay them a United States minimum wage. And if you're working at a really good facility, they'll actually pay you more than minimum wage. But minimum wage here, because our cost of living is so much higher, it's like this chicken and egg thing, right? Is so much higher than it is in so many other countries. And so at the end of the day, when we actually manufacture goods here in the US, they end up costing us more than if we would have just paid the damn tariff in the first place, importing it from another place, including these really high new tariffs. Okay, we've run the numbers. A lot of times we find that importing the goods from a different country, including the shipment fees, including the transit, including the duty rates, including the new tariffs, it is still more cost effective for our businesses to produce and to pay all of those fees than it is to produce in the United States because of how expensive it is to actually pay workers here to do the jobs that we need them to do. And so I have this article that I was reading. Peter Schiff from Nike actually made a couple of really strong comments on Twitter recently, basically saying that Nike won't build factories in the US and they will likely lean into selling to countries like China, which is a much better strategy for them amid all of these Trump tariffs. And one of the quotes basically says, Nike won't build factories in the US to make sneakers. That would add more cost than the 40% tariffs. The result will be fewer sneakers sold in the US at much higher prices. And this might sound really harsh, but Nike is doing the math on this too. They're saying even if I bring sneakers in at the new 40% tariff on top of what I've already been paying, it's still going to cost me less than if I manufactured those sneakers here in the US because it's so expensive to manufacture them here in the US. And so there is a lot for us to be able to overcome, to be able to say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and figure out how to manufacture in the US. We're going to bring all of our manufacturing back just domestically. We're going to onshore as much as we possibly can. There are solutions for small brands out there. For big brands like Nike, as far as I know, again, please correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, there are no manufacturing facilities here in the US who could handle the supply demand that Nike has. They could not make hundreds of thousands of units every single month the way that we can overseas. And so because of that, we're stuck in this really weird little situation, and we might see certain manufacturing facilities try to be built over the next several years, but it is going to come back to a hit to the consumer at the end of the day over the next 3 to 5 years. While let's say we all build great manufacturing facilities, the next 3 to 5 years are still going to be hard on the American consumer because the businesses who are bringing in the goods, and there's no other option for us right now, are still going to have to figure out how to pass along at least a portion of those new tariffs to the consumer. And the brands who are out there thinking, I'm going to absorb this, I'm not going to pass along the fees to the consumer, and I'm going to try to do the right thing for my customer, I really, really caution you to take a look at your books, take a look at your finances, take a look at your business plan, because we are also seeing right now, because of all of this, so many small brands shutting down. It's too much. And so right now we're seeing all of this information hit two people really, really hard. Number one is the American consumer. We might not see it yet, but we've already been in a period of high inflation. We are probably just going to see that get worse, right? So the American consumer is going to get hit first. And this is a challenge, I think, to you as a consumer to consider how you're shopping, right? We've been shopping for clothes and for goods for a really long time, just buying the cheapest thing that we can find and buying as much of it as possible. And this might be a really good time for us as a society to re-explore how we could shop differently, right? Like maybe we should start demanding higher quality, better value products. And maybe we're willing to pay more for them. We buy less of them, but we can keep them for a really, really long time. This is what the slow fashion movement has been about for a really long time. This is what we're trying to battle fast fashion on. Buy goods that will stay in your closet for decades. You may pay more for them up front, but the cost per unit that you're actually going to buy is going to be so much lower because it's going to last you a really long time. So maybe this is a good time for us to reevaluate how we shop, how we consume goods. But over the next several years, we are probably going to see this the hardest. And then the second person who's really going to get hardest is the small business owner, because there are very few incentives right now happening in the small business world to shift the way that we are doing business. And the proposals to onshore and to start manufacturing in the US are not actually a better deal for us as a business. And so we are either going to have to pass along higher rates to our customers and potentially see lower sales because our customers aren't going to be able to afford our goods as well. Or we are going to try as much as we can to absorb all of these higher fees with the potential risk of seeing our businesses shut down over time because we can't absorb it properly. So, if you have been following me for a while, you know I've been talking about this ad nauseum. I'm trying to be really, really real with you here. Comments are welcome. I really encourage you to try to be as kind as possible if you're going to put comments below. Understand that there are a lot of people really confused, really hurting, really afraid of what this is going to do to themselves, do to the business, do to the economy. And so I want you to, if you are going to comment on any of my posts, I encourage you to always come from a place of understanding and kindness and trying to figure out how we can all work on this as a community together. Okay. That is the values that we try to bring to this community through Unmarked Street and the business of apparel. We want everything to come from kindness first. Okay. So I'm just throwing that out there, but comments welcome. I want us to be having dialogue about what this looks like, but at the same time, I want you to be paying attention and I want you to be planning your business. We had this great conversation in our business community the other day. So we have just started a new annual membership where you can come in. We're having these kinds of conversations very pointedly with the business owners that we're helping to build their brands. We're helping them plan for this stuff up front so that they can absorb these costs. They're not going to figure out like that they have to go out of business anytime soon because we're planning for it up front. I encourage you to do the same thing and to start looking at your numbers and to start understanding all of this information as early as you possibly can. Go back several videos if you can. I talked a lot about doing a worst case scenario budget. Go back and do that worst case scenario budget. What happens if I have to pay a 100% tariff on the goods that I'm importing? What does that look like for me and my brand? So I encourage you to be thinking about all of that right now so that you can protect your brand, you can protect the future of it. Because if you can figure out how to get through this period, right? If we're going to go into a recession, if we're going to see really hard economic times, if you can figure out how to survive, thrive through this period, you are going to reap the rewards of that on the other side. And there will be another side. We will see us all get through this at some point. It always happens. That's how this works. So I don't want you to feel like this is forever. This is for right now. We will get through it. We will figure it out, but plan for the right now. Set yourself up for success. If you have any questions, let me know. Again, kindness in the comments, please. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great week ahead.